It's kind of hard to get worked up over a subcompact car. I mean, most of them are boring entry-level vehicles that cater to folks who think cars are merely a form of transportation. Fortunately, in recent years, manufacturers have made a real effort to make their B-segment cars a little bit more exciting. They've added a bit more flavor to turn their boring grocery getters into cars that you'd actually want or crave. But despite all the new models out there, only one subcompact can really get me stoked. Presenting the 2022 Mazda 2 Hatchback Premium. Here we have a refreshed version of the third generation Mazda 2. Now in this country, a lot of people may consider this to be the second generation model. But in any case, this body style has been around since 2014. And in no way does it look or feel like it's 8 years old. Now for those of you who don't feel like 2014 was that long ago, allow me to put that into perspective. 8 years ago, the latest phones were the Samsung Note 4 and the iPhone 6. Need for Speed was in theaters, and TikTok didn't even exist, nor did this channel. Now speaking of this channel, the Mazda 2 was actually the first car I ever reviewed. In fact, this is the third time the Mazda 2 is making an appearance on this channel. And over the years, I have had the chance to drive many subcompact cars. But despite all the compelling options out there, there is one undisputed leader when it comes to good driving dynamics. And here it comes. When it comes to driving dynamics, there are a number of things that sets the Mazda 2 apart from its competitors. But what I think really makes it stand out is how it manages to strike a balance in terms of being effortless and engaging to drive. Some manufacturers make their car effortless to drive or feel effortless to drive by giving you ultralight steering, underdamped suspension, and super sensitive throttle response. And to make the car sporty, they slap on ricey body kits and a badge that's supposed to stand for racing. But Mazda takes a different approach because they understand where to draw the line when it comes to driver involvement so that the car is fun to drive without feeling taxing. For instance, the steering is nicely weighted. It actually requires some effort to steer. But the steering ratio isn't lazy, so the car can shift direction with minimal steering inputs. And it's the same case with the throttle response. You actually have to put your foot down a bit deeper to get the car to react. But once you get the hang of it, you can get this car to do exactly what you want it to do. There's a synergy that exists between man and machine in the Mazda 2, something you simply don't get in other subcompact cars. I think the term for it is Jinba Tai, or horse and rider as one. Giddy up! Now you might think I'm exaggerating here, but sitting behind the wheel of this thing, you can really tell that Mazda's made a real effort to appeal to those who love to drive. This has manual mode, which isn't really uncommon these days. But Mazda is one of few manufacturers who does it right. Because with this gear lever, you move it down to upshift and up to downshift, which is exactly how it should be. And aside from getting paddle shifters, you even get a kickdown pedal, which allows you to downshift and even bypass a few gears by flooring the accelerator. Speaking of shifting, this comes with the 6-speed Skyactiv transmission. And I'm so glad it still does, because most subcompacts these days come with a CVT, a continuous variable transmission. And while a lot of them have done a really good job in emulating a conventional automatic, nothing beats the real thing, especially when it's tuned as well as this one. This will allow you to redline if you wanted to, and only a few automatics do that. So even if there are cars out there with more horsepower, this still feels more exhilarating and predictable to drive thanks to its transmission. Under the hood, you only get a 1.5-liter engine with 110 horsepower and 141 newton meters of torque. But that's really all you need. In fact, it's more than enough, because the power is progressive as you get higher in the rev range. So the car never feels like it's running out of steam. Now, as far as the suspension is concerned, you get McPherson struts up front and a torsion beam axle at the back. And despite not being softly sprung, the ride never feels harsh or jarring. Now, this may ride stiffer than some of the competition, but at least it shines when it comes to handling. Speaking of handling, this comes with Mazda's G Vectoring Control Plus, which alters braking and torque based on your steering inputs. Simply said, it makes curvy roads feel less twisty. It makes you feel like a better driver, especially when canyon carving. And all those driving traits makes this my favorite subcompact car. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. The Mazda 2's Achilles heel has always been its lack of interior space. As you can see, this isn't the roomiest car on the planet. So if you want to buy a taxi, you should look elsewhere. And unfortunately, it's the same case when it comes to trunk space. Even if you can fold these seats down, space is quite limited. And aside from the lack of space, there's also a lack of amenities. You don't get a center armrest, there aren't any charge ports, you don't even get a dome light. Another thing I noticed is that the opening of the doors are quite small. So my back tends to rub against the B-pillar each time I get in, which is a bit of a nuisance. And when I do get in, my biggest gripe is the fact that there's no center armrest. But despite the absence of one, this is still an extremely comfortable and plush interior. The materials here are exquisite, not just for its segment, it's exquisite period. You get soft touch leather all around and Alcantara on the sidings and on the seats. The seats are supple leather with contrast stitching and white piping, which really makes it pop. What I love most about the Mazda 2's interior, aside from that, is the fact that the driving position is just spectacular. It's exactly where you want it to be. The steering wheel moves for tilt and reach, so you can find your ideal driving position. And the ergonomics are just spot on. Everything is well within reach and extremely intuitive and easy to use. This is still a touchscreen, but I would rather control it using the rotary knob because it's just so easy and you can keep the screen free of fingerprints. Now, speaking of the infotainment system, this has Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay. It also has a reverse camera, which could be improved, but nonetheless, it gets the job done. The sound system is also pretty good. There's a good level of separation, frequency response is broad, it's more than par for the course. Now, in terms of tech, you also get a wireless charger and several charge ports here. The climate control is fully automatic, and you get a very pronounced tachometer in the center of the instrument cluster, flanked by 2 LCD screens. The best part is you get a head-up display to help you keep your eyes on the road while driving. So a wireless charger, a head-up display, and Alcantara interior is just unheard of in this segment. And so is an auto-dimming mirror. But what really sweetens the deal is the fact that this car comes with iActive Sense, which is Mazda's suite of safety features, such as front and rear smart city brake support, lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, driver attention alert, and rear cross traffic alert. So even if the changes of the Mazda 2 are quite subtle at a glance, you can tell that they've made updates where they have to keep this thing compelling in today's market. The exterior of the Mazda 2 remains largely unchanged from when it was first released back in 2014. What has changed are the color options that you get. And it's a shame that it keeps raining because I'm unable to show you this gorgeous platinum quartz in all its glory. Although I'm not a huge fan of the black rims. But there are subtle changes at the front. You get a more refined front clip, as well as a more refined rear bumper. And overall, it's a really clean design. Now, as far as pricing is concerned, this is unapologetically priced at 1,195,000 pesos. And I say unapologetically priced because it's worth every penny. Thanks for watching.